All right, there we go. So now I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to give you, actually, before I do that, I'm going to give you the link to the slides. We're going to talk a little bit about what people do with links to slides in a moment. Okay, so let me start us off here. So, um, as I said, this is our third year doing Google Club, and the idea of Google Club had been kind of something we've been discussing at the Literacy Assistance Center for a while, trying to figure out like, was it something we could do in person? Was it something that would work as a webinar? And this was before pandemic, and we kind of just didn't know quite what to do because we felt like New York's such a weird it's tricky to get around. Is it worth taking a subway or a bus to come for an hour and a half somewhere? And so it seemed like a virtual thing would work, but we weren't really that convinced that virtual was so great. Um, and then pandemic came along and everybody wanted to know everything immediately, and that was a perfect time to kick off Google Club virtually. So that's kind of what got us going finally. Um, and the idea of Google Club, I mean, the reason we're calling it a club is because we want it to be kind of more of a level playing field. It often ends up with me doing a lot of talking, and I'm going to try and be better this year at doing less talking and making more space for you all who are doing stuff, right? You're out there trying stuff out, or you're being challenged. You're trying to figure out how to solve a problem, maybe with Google. So it sounds like we have some folks who are beginners, so we're going to do some beginning stuff for the first couple of meetings. But then as you do stuff, we really want to hear back from you because you are the ones working with learners and in programs. I have lots of ideas, but I don't really get to use them with learners. So it's really helpful. And I think the value of Google Club is that we are sort of a learning community. Um, Last year we did a thing where we were trying to do digital badging. So we had projects so we meet once a month, and in between those meetings, you could work on a project and submit it. And if it covered certain requirements, you would get a digital badge for that. This year I'm trying something different. Google actually does have several certificates for teachers. Um, they're not really designed for us in that sense that they are very much kind of, I think the assumption is the people who are getting them are mostly people working in the K-12 system. But it is a certificate that is recognized. There is a level one certificate, and then there are some other certificates. We'll look at all that today. So my thought is to use the Google Education Level One certificate as our kind of guide. Excuse me. Uh, So you don't have to do take the certificate course or take the test at the end, but we're going to use it as a guide to take us through all the various tools and how Google thinks they might be useful for you as a teacher. And then we always think that whatever's good for you as a teacher is good for you or your learners to learn too. So I know some of you said you were working with low level students, and sometimes people can feel like it's not easy to bring in digital skills, but we want digital skills everywhere. And so every time we're talking about these things that you as teachers or people working in programs can use Google for, we want to also consider, is this something that um we could turn it around a little bit and have the learners actually trying out these tools or using them for some variation on what we're doing. So those are kind of the underpinnings of all of this. If you have questions at any time, we're a small group today, particularly, feel free. Probably easier if you raise your hand, but go ahead and we can unmute or you can put things in the chat. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. But sometimes I miss things there, but I'll take little breaks and check that out. Um, but yeah, we're a small group, so wonderful to have you all here and feel free to ask questions as they come up. You don't have to wait.
Hello. Hello. Can
Hello.
you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome.
Okay.
That's
Sorry
okay.
about my camera. I'm not able to turn it on.
It's
My
okay.
name is Ilkay. I work at BronxWorks, and I'm an ESL teacher. I teach low-level classes, high-level classes, and uh, I use the Google Classroom. I use Google Maps. And also, when I need to teach some words, I use Google Images to show the students.
Nice.
what the word means. Yeah. And when I teach civics, for example, talking about the borders, the United States, the states of the United States, or the cities, capital cities, I use Google Map and show the students the location of the states, the country. So I use it in my classes, and I also want to learn more how I can use more effectively in my classes. That's why I'm here. Thank you
Fantastic.
so much. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
Mhm.
I'm glad your mic's working now. That's great. And great uses of all the various tools. So there are lots and lots of Google tools, as people have mentioned several as we've been talking now, and then there's even more than that. Um, so just a reminder, at the end, we're going to have a evaluation that we really need you to fill out. So I'll have this slide again at the end with this information, but just so you know, we're in Google Club, our first session of the year, and we're going from 4 to 5:30. I actually didn't introduce myself. So my name is Nell Eckersley, and I do work at the Literacy Assistance Center. And maybe you've been to some trainings with my colleagues. And my area, so I've been at the LAC now, I think almost 20 years, like 19 years. And over time, technology and digital instruction have become the areas that I work in the most. So before pandemic, we would talk about integrating technology. Now we talk more about digital skills, and we're kind of looking at both of those elements. So as an instructor, how can technology support you and make what you do better and easier and all these things? And then also thinking about, like I said, if we want to think about how we are making sure there are opportunities for learners to work on their digital skills, because these are now it's just, we talk about digital literacy, and I heard someone the other day say, it's just literacy at this point. Like we need this, right? We are in so many places, we're going to be forced to work with information and take care of our families and get a job. All these things are going to require a certain level of digital skills. So we want to make sure we're including that into our instruction. Moving along. Okay, so today we just did introductions. We're going to talk a little bit about the Google Educator Level 1. We're actually going to talk a little bit about Google Club first, just to get ourselves, get our bearings. Then we're going to talk about other certifications and then some resources, and then those like little quiz at the end. So we'll see how that goes. Um, I have a question for you, and some of you have been to my other sessions. What is the difference? If you're looking at this, so these are Google Slides. And I did put the link in the chat. I'm going to put it in there again because I think some people maybe came after that. Um, so one of the reasons the reason I kind of came to Google was because of this, that I can share with you materials by just giving you a link. I don't have to send you the document like had to do with PowerPoint. I don't have to expect that you have PowerPoint. So now I think I can probably send you a link to the online version of PowerPoint, but like it's still a struggle for you if you don't have PowerPoint to do anything with that content. So what we like about Google is this idea that it so one of the things I usually talk about with technology is this idea that there are kind of three different ways that we interact with technology. Technology these days, we're really talking about information and communication technology. And we are very good at consuming information, meaning that not necessarily that we're very smart about it, but it's easy for us and we enjoy doing it and we're drawn into doing it a lot. So we call that the consuming part. And the way I kind of show that a little bit is if I asked how many of you have ever watched a video on YouTube, I'm going to guess that everyone would raise their hands. I've had one person once who'd never seen a YouTube video, but usually everyone's seen a YouTube video. So that's consuming. Very easy. I didn't have to log in. I could do it on my phone. I could do it on my TV. I could do it on my computer. My friends can send them to me. It's very, very easy. But then we talk about how many of you have actually made a video and put it up on YouTube, and the numbers usually go down. I don't know if you all want to say if you've in the chat or raise your hands or whatever, but how many of you have made a video and put it on YouTube? Usually our numbers go down to about 20%. And that's creating. So creating content is a little different than consuming the content, right? Creating requires that you usually have to have an account. So I'd have to have an account on YouTube in order to upload my video. Um, if I was creating a Google document, I need to have a Google account. To read somebody else's Google document, I don't. So the beautiful thing for you as a teacher is you can have, you know that you have a Google account, but you don't, your learners don't have to have Google accounts to get to see, to consume your content. So we say we have consuming, which is super easy, made very easy, and therefore a little bit dangerous, right? Because we don't know that content might not be accurate or whatever, but it's very easy for us to get to and for us to, we enjoy looking at content a lot. Then we have creating, which some of us do more than others. And as teachers, we do a lot of creating. And then the last one is curating. And curating, if you think about a museum, right? The curator is the person who chooses the things that are going to go on the wall. When as teachers, we curate a lot. That point that Sarah made about the book has this much information and practice and whatever, but you might want to do some additional things or try, there's a certain area that it doesn't quite get to, or your learners need a little extra practice. You are creating new content, but you're also curating what do your students need? What is good content for them to see? Um, and as teachers, we also so we do a lot more creating and curating, but we also want to make opportunities for our students, for the learners to be doing those two things too, because again, this is very important. These abilities to know where a file is in your Google Drive is very important. And a lot of people get lost and feel very unclear where their stuff is, right? Or organizing your Gmail or using the calendar. All of these are skills that are part of everyday life, but are part of classroom life as well. So when we look at this screen, this is a Google slide. What we have agenda, which is in red. We have introductions, which is black. And then we have Google Educator Level 1 certification, which is a different color and underlined. What do you think is the difference between introductions and Google Educator Level 1 certification? Why is one black and one teal and underlined? What does it make you think? What would happen if I scrolled over? Yeah, go for it, Sean. Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
It's a hyperlink
It's a hyperlink. And why do you think that? What makes you think it's a hyperlink?
because of the fact that it's underlined.
Right. So underlining is quite commonly a sign that we have a hyperlink somewhere, and often another color will also be a sign that it's going to be a hyperlink. And then just to double check it, if I scroll over it, right, like I scroll over the black writing, I just have my little arrow, but as I scroll over the hyperlink, I'm going to get a little hand or some other icon that will let me know that I can click on it. So in Google Slides, so this is indeed a hyperlink. Where do you think this hyperlink takes us? Go ahead, Sean. Oh, sorry, you muted, unmuted. It's tricky.
It takes us to another website.
So yes, usually, so when we have a hyperlink, we think mostly hyperlinks are taking you to another website somewhere else, right? I mean, usually when I make my slides, a lot of the hyperlinks are going to take you to another website where you can get to other content. But this is a tricky one. This hyperlink actually takes us to that section of these slides. So when you're looking at Google Slides, you can actually link from one slide to another and skip all the slides between. So if I wanted learning resources, let me get out of this in the, so it's not in the display mode. Sorry. There we go. So normally the way I would make a hyperlink, right, is I would come to learning resources. I would highlight it. I have a couple of different ways I can make links. So I could either right click and find the link. There's also keystrokes, Control K, or up here on the ribbon, we also see that link. So any of those will work, whatever you like best. Click on that. And now I could paste my link out to a website somewhere. And for me, that's usually how I use that in PowerPoints. But it gives you this option of slides in the presentation. So if I click on that, now I get a list of all the slides with their titles. So I can come down here and I can find where it says other Google Learning resources. So now, when this is in slideshow mode, when I click on learning resources, I skip all the way to slide 12. And if I'm smart, which is what I should do right now, is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make a little, let's see here, text box. That's going to be my little button to go back to the agenda. And I'll make that a little bit bigger. And I'm going to make it a different color. And then this whole box can now be a link to slides in the presentation. And I want to go back to the agenda. So now when this is in slideshow mode, I can come here and then when I'm done with this, I can click on this and it takes me back to my agenda. So you can create, so I'm treating this a bit like a reference tool for you. When you come back, it's not that hard. This is not a very long slideshow, but sometimes my slides are really, really long. And instead of making you go through every slide to find the one that is about the thing you cared about, here in my agenda, usually I make this into kind of like a contents, list of contents or an index. So like I'll do well, I won't do the other one because it takes us time, but um, again, this would be another one and it would take you down here to somewhere else in the slide. So then this can be treated a bit like a reference tool. So just know that you can do that. All right, so that was taking us a little time out. So on this slide, we have our objectives for today, which are to talk a little bit about what the level one certification is, and then talk a little bit about more maybe specifically things that you want to learn about, or we're going to look at what the topics are for the next few Google Clubs, and you can tell me if there's something you would like us to sort of spend particular attention on or not. Um, and you also see here that you have this link. Now, I gave you the link to the slides. And when you go back, so some of you are sitting in your offices now, I know, and some of you are, meeting us on your phones. When I give you that link to the slides, how would you get back to the slides tomorrow? If someone shares a document with you, how do you get back to it in the future? Did you email it to yourself? Because we used to do that.
Maybe also like save it on a Word document.
Absolutely. So you could take the link and you could save it in a Word document. But
Can you save it in your Google Drive?
yes, so how would you do that, Yuisa?
Hmm. Well, if I'm clicking on it where it says file
Okay, nice. Over here.
or slideshow, I would probably. Well, I'm not signed in, so
Okay, so this is a good point. So if you're
yeah.
not signed in, it's going to limit what you can do. And you're going to have to do something like Vasilios mentioned, where you might take the link and put it in a Google Doc, or you could save it in a notes app or email it to yourself or something like that, right? So and I will send these out, so you can also just rely on me sending them out. But if you're
I
logged
did
in, yeah,
sign in. Yeah. And now add shortcut or
excellent. So
make
we have,
copy. Oh,
right. So Yuisa, what's the difference between adding a shortcut, which is here, or making a copy, which is here? Why would you do one or the other?
I think I would make a copy if I wanted to like make edits or personalize it. And
Nice.
add a shortcut would be more to directly get into it.
So one of the big differences is exactly what you said. So right now, if you're in here, I can see a few of you are here, right? This is one way that I know I shared the link and some of you clicked on the link and are in here with me. I don't know who you are, right? It gives me the anonymous tiger, shrew, bat, and that's it, right? So I don't know who's in here, but I know some of you are in here. Um, and right now, the link I gave you view only access. So you can come and look at my slides and you can click around on your own, but you can't come in and delete anything or, add any other information. Yes, Sean.
What does in here mean?
Oh, sorry, in the slides. So if you
How
went
did
to
those people get there? How did those people get there? I'm
all
not there.
right. Okay. So if you go to the chat, in the chat there's a link. If you click on that link, it should open these slides. And sometimes this can be very confusing for people because you're looking at my Zoom screen and now you have another tab open in your browser showing you these slides. But I think you just joined because we saw another little figure show up here. We have a new anonymous dragon. Okay. So the link I gave you, I got by clicking on share. And when I share it, I could email it to you, but I don't know all your email addresses. So what I like to do generally is I use this general access down here. So I don't do the people with access. I do the general access. And here it says anyone with a link can view my slides. So after today, you could keep looking at my slides. I've given you that permission. I can also come in here and I can say, actually, everyone with a link can comment on my slides. Like, I'd like your feedback. This is sort of like, oh, I always forget the name in Microsoft, but where people can comment on, give you suggestions rather than going in and changing your work. So commenting means you can come in, you can look at stuff, and you can also add little comments that I will be able to see. And that's a way we could work collaboratively. Or I could make you an editor, and that would be the most collaborative, right? You would have equal access. You could add slides, take slides out, and this is true for all the Google tools, right? That you can share using this link, you can share with other people, but you get to decide what level of access you're giving them. And that's a weighty responsibility. So you should feel very safe and take some time and make sure that you're picking the level you want people to have. You can, what happens, do you think, after I've given you this link? So, okay, if I copy this link now and I was to paste it here, right? This is what the link looks like. It's a big, long, ugly link. Can you tell from this link if I've given you edit access or view only access or comment access? I'm going to make it a little smaller writing so maybe it's easier to see. Oops. What do you think? Who thinks that from here you could tell me if you have edit capability, view only capability, or comment capability?
Hmm.
Yes, Yuisa.
Oh,
Oh, you unmuted. Thought you were
um,
answering.
I I don't think I can tell. I'm not sure. I know it says sharing. Um,
Right. So you see this. I'm going to make a new slide and we'll just have this on there because it'll be a little easier to
so
see.
you mean like once you click on it?
Well, if you were looking at this,
I can't. I don't know.
and this is
That
a good question, does anybody think that you can tell? That when I look at this, I can be like, oh, I know. If I give this link to someone, they're definitely going to be able to edit because I see the word edit, right? So that's something that people might think means it automatically means edit.
Mm.
So right now, I got that link by clicking on share. I had viewer only, and I copied the link. Now I'm going to change that to editor, and I'm going to copy the link. Then I'm going to click done, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paste that link. It's exactly the same,
Mm.
right?
So you can't
So
tell.
you cannot tell by looking at a link if it has share capability or not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, and that's important to know. This also means that once you give a link to people, right now, I just changed it. So technically, all of you folks who are in the slides with me could go in and edit right now. I'm going to go back and quickly change that. But it does mean you have to be aware that if you've given a link to people through the general access area and you come back tomorrow and you change this, everyone who has the link will get whatever the new level is because the link doesn't change. And that was something when I first came to Google, I was very unsure about. Like, if I change the level of access, is that a new link? If I change it after I've shared it with people, will it change their access or only new people? And the fact is that the link stays the same. You can change the level of access and it will change it for everybody. So you want to be careful. Like we often do something where maybe we give people the ability to edit, and then after tomorrow, when it's due for homework, rechange it to viewer. Or I'm sharing something with you, I want you to have access to it, but I don't want you to be able to edit it. So I'm gonna make sure it only has view only access. So this is a very important part of how we use Google with our learners, right? Is that we're often sharing content with them. Yuisa had a great point though. So under file, we had these two different options. We have the add shortcut to Drive, which just like Yuisa said, would give you, it would keep this in your, it would give you access to this in your drive, but there would only be one of these slideshows in the whole world. And we would all just be coming in and looking at it. That's what the shortcut does. So you don't, if I come back tomorrow and I change it because someone asked a question today and I didn't have the answer, I can come in and add stuff to it. And when you look at it again tomorrow, you'll see those changes. So it's a dynamic document. So when I say so if I was to make a copy, how many of these slide presentations would be in the world? Two. And they would both be separate. So then I could make changes to mine and you would not see those anymore. You would only see the one that you created or that you made as a copy. Yes, Sean.
But I have to do something with it because once this presentation's over and that chat room closes, it's lost. So
Excellent.
I have to save it in some manner or some
Yes.
form.
So, Sean, if you have it open here, probably up here where it says the name of the slide deck, you're seeing the same little symbol that you see here beside the add shortcut. If this is a document that someone has shared with you, you want to come to the add shortcut either here under file, or if you see it up here, you could click it there as well. So we're going to click add shortcut to Drive. And now you get to tell Google where you want it to go. So you can come back to it because you can decide what would be the most logical way that I would come back to this. So I don't want to just put it in my drive because then it's just going to be in there and it's got like this weird date at the beginning and I'm never going to find it. I might want to make a folder called Google Club that I know I'm going to come back to and I'm going to save all my slides in there or, tech help or whatever phrase you like. So here we can go to, so Google really likes to help, and sometimes it's very helpful. So you might see something here that makes sense for you. Starred is another way that you can decide what's important. And then we have all allocations. So here under My Drive, this is what I would recommend today. I would go to My Drive. I would click on this little sideways arrow here. And down here, I can make a new folder. So I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it Google Club and maybe call it for the year. So we're in fiscal year 24, whatever, 25. So I'm going to call it fiscal year 25. Okay. So I have now made a folder that's going to be in my drive. It's logical to me because the word Google is at the beginning. So I'm going to find it pretty easily because it's going to be alphabetical. And I'm going to go ahead and click create. And now I can click add and this document is going to be there. So the test is to go to my drive and I'm going to go to my drive and I'm going to scroll all the way down to Google. See if we can find it. You see, I have a lot of stuff. And here's Google Club FY 2025. I made it today at 4:41, so I think this is the folder. I can always double click on it. And sure enough, there is my slide presentation. And I know it's a shortcut because it has that little arrow, right? So it has the icon for slides, but it has that little tiny arrow there that lets me know that it's not the actual document, it's a shortcut. Shortcuts are amazing because you can have as many as you want. So this is one shortcut to the slides, but say I have another folder that's like work I'd like to work I want to do this weekend, and that's another folder. You can have a shortcut in there. Or say you have something I want to share with my boss. Could be a folder that you have, and you could have a shortcut in there. So you can. The beauty of the shortcuts is you can have as many shortcuts as you want to. There's still just one slide deck that we're all seeing that all those shortcuts are pointing to, but you get to put them anywhere you want to. It's like in the grocery store, there's a sort of the milk is always in the back right corner, but what if the milk was also beside the cereal? Why not? Right? So we have that power. We can decide how we want to do it. You don't have to don't make it crazy for yourself, but you'll see now that you know this, or if you knew it before, maybe you've done this before, where you can make just things a little easier for yourself because things will be in a folder together. Um, when I'm working on all this stuff for DYCD, for all these workshops, I have several folders in there and I have many shortcuts. So I don't have to keep going back and finding that other folder. And then inside that folder, there's another document. I can kind of raise things to the top by making a shortcut to them. I don't know if I'm making that more complicated than it needs to be, but that's how. So if someone gave me a link at a conference, at a workshop, I would make a shortcut. I'd put it in a folder that I know I'm going to be able to get back to easily. I'm going to remember the name of it. And then when you're looking in your drive, you always can see this. This we call the breadcrumb trail because it takes us backwards to where we started. So this is a folder inside my drive. But we could have some crazy, so you can see I have some shortcuts up here, right? I might have, let's see, if I open this one up. Yeah, so there's some shortcuts in here. So I have folders within folders within folders, and that can get very annoying to go back and find something. So I can go if there's something in a folder inside a folder inside a folder, and I want to keep that close to the surface, I could come in here and I could make a shortcut to this document, and I could keep it in my drive, or I could keep it somewhere much higher up in that sort of hierarchy so I can get back to it easily, but it's still organized inside a folder that's logically where it should be. Is that making sense? Is that make too complicated? For today, the important thing is just that you know where that the slides went to. So again, the way we did that, we have our slides, we made our shortcut. Where'd my shortcut button go to? Um, That's funny if it went away because I made it already. There it goes. Make another shortcut. So it changed it because I've already made one. And now I could say, actually put that one in, um, oh, it wants to put it in my drive. Okay, so maybe I want to put that inside the STEM Institute one, for example, right? So we could say that, and then I can say add, and now it's in there as well. And if I search for it, I'm going to see all those different shortcuts. But the important thing is that I find it where it is. So if we go back out here to my drive, and in your drive, it's confusing. You have home, which you may have set up consciously so it looks like your drive, or it could be, in this case, I think it shows you the most recently done things. But my drive is the one that I know where things are. I have done a lot of work. So notice all of these file names that have a number one at the beginning. Why would I put a number one at the beginning of my files?
They come up first alphabetically.
Yes, exactly. So numbers always come before letters. So we have AIR, Celia, Conference, Draw, MTA, Stack. Like Stack would be way down. I have so much stuff, right? I'd have to search all the way down to the S's. But by putting that one in front of it, I keep it at the top. So that's another cheating workaround I have for keeping things near the top that I work on a lot because I was very bad with my starred folder. So a couple of things I've done. I put numbers here and I've made colors. You can change the color of folders. So in this one, for example, if I want to go to organize, I can change this to a color. And I can have a logical rule for my colors, right? So I can know, usually my rule is pretty not that uh difficult. It's like red. Red's something I'm really working on right now. But purple has sort of been something I use for Google. I don't know. So you can if color is something that works for you, color can be really useful and you can always take the color away again, right? So in this one I could go back to put it back to gray, maybe, except I can't see the gray one down there. But anyway, so you can change the colors whenever you want to. And the color that I make my folder, the other person does not see that color. Their folder stays their own color. Yes, Sean.
Sorry, another dumb question.
No, no.
Uisa, no, Uisa said all of this was predicated by the fact that she hadn't logged in. Am I supposed to be logged in at some point to do all
So
this stuff?
so in order for you to see all of this stuff, you will have to be logged in, right? So I'm over here. I can see my face. I know I'm logged in. You might just see your you might just see a letter, not your face. Um, so if I sign out and I try to go to drive.google.com, it's going to make me sign in. So if you're not signed in and someone gives you a link to these slides, when you try to go there, you're not going to be able to save it. So you right now the browser I'm using is Chrome and I use Chrome all the time and I have my drive open all the time. And so I don't even think about doing it. But if you're not using Google all the time, certainly in a situation like this, I would highly recommend logging in. And if you're working with learners, it's something to think about for them too. Not everybody has a Google account. I would highly recommend that that be one of the baseline things that you want all your learners to have. They don't have to use it going after they've been in your classes. Um, but for them to have a Google account means they can save all these things in places that they know they are. They can look at everything without a Google account, but they can't save it. Yes, Sean.
Is my Google Drive login just my Gmail account?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Very good. Exactly. So these are great questions. So your Google account, there are people who have Google accounts. Oh, I have to sign in. There are people who have Google accounts that use non-Gmail as their logins, but that's rare. And it's just simpler for most people to use their Gmail, right? Um, oh, and then there's always these kind of complications, which again, if you're doing this with learners, like my phone now wants to verify that I'm really doing this. And I'm going to say, yes, it's me. Now, not everyone will have that because I happen to have a Pixel phone. So it is very connected to Google. If you have a iPhone or you have an Android, but you don't really kind of work with Google very much on your phone, that probably doesn't pop up, but it does pop up if you're all connected. So I have gone the Google route, but one of the reasons we like Google, I said earlier, was because people can access stuff even if they don't have accounts. Also because you can use it across all your devices. Um, but yes, to organize things, to be able to come back to them easily, then it's really a good idea to have the account. And I think it's worth having a Google account, even if you never use the Gmail function. So yes, if I was making an account, I would start off by getting it would have a Gmail and a password, and those are now your credentials for anything Google. And here's a tip. If you have a Google account, you also have a YouTube account. Many people don't know that, but Google bought YouTube years ago. So even if you've never, if you go to YouTube, you'll see that I'm logged in with the same, look, it's the same picture even. So you can use YouTube without having an account, but just know that you can log in and then you can actually save the videos you like to playlists, and you can add your own videos to YouTube and it'll remember the videos you've watched. So there's some benefits to logging into Google or to YouTube. And just know that whatever the username and password you have for your Gmail will work for Drive, will work for YouTube, will work for Slides, whatever. All right, that was a far swing out. Oh my gosh, now it's all confused. Okay, I think it's okay now. So you need to, so the steps we did, right? You need to be logged into your Google Drive. You want to go to create a shortcut to My Slides, and you want to put the shortcut somewhere that you can easily get back to. For most people, that will be creating a folder or looking for a folder that you already have that's technology or something related. And then you want to be able to get back to that folder. And some of the tips that I have for doing that are making folders different color, adding a number at the beginning of the name of the folder so that it comes to the top. And then starred was the one I was going to show you. So if I'm looking at any of these folders and I right click on it, under organize is where you can do all of this. So organize, I can change the color, I can add a shortcut, I can move it to a different folder, and I can add it to starred. And starred is a folder over here that is there when you first start, and anything you star is going to be here. And then when you're done doing it, you right click on it. That's not what I want to do. Let's do, if I go to organize again, I can remove from starred. So starred, it's favorites, and I'm a very bad, this is a great example of very bad behavior where my starred folder is very full, which really takes the functionality of starred away, because the whole idea of starred should be it should be a very, very few things there that are very important right now, and then as soon as they're not so important, you take them out of starred. I haven't been very good at that. So that's kind of why I've had to come up with the numbering, the numbering workaround where actually everything that's important to me is here because I numbered it and it's sitting at the top. Okay. Questions? That was a lot of chatting that wasn't even part of what I had meant to go through today, but it's all good stuff because this is kind of the foundation. The Google Drive is your foundation for Google stuff, in that anything you want to make with Google or to understand the tools that you have under Google, you have things like this little 9 square box over here. We call it the waffle. The waffle, if I click on it, right, I can see all the different tools. I can just click on that, any of these tools, and I can move them around, right? So I can decide that photos is really important. I'm going to move that up here. And there are things below the fold that I don't ever even use. See, I don't use my Gmail, so it's down here, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the what you're doing with your docs, can you also do it with photos?
Yes. Well, photos are separate. So yes, what happens with photos, if I go over here and open a new tab. So one of the things about almost all Google tools, a way that you can get to them without having to go back to your drive or go to that waffle is to type in the name of the tool. So in this case, photos, and then it's .google.com. So if I wanted to look at a new doc, docs.google.com. If I want to look at my drive, drive.google.com, sheets.google.com. Everything is pretty much that rule. So the name of the tool, .google.com. Now I open up my photos. So photos work a little differently. They, the way they want you to, so there's just a feed, right? There's a feed that's set up by date. And you can't really do much about that. You can delete things, but what you can do is you can create albums, which are kind of like folders. So, it'll create these weird things at the top that it thinks you care about. But say, yeah, here's a friend who turned 100 years old. This is his 100th birthday, and I want to make a folder just of his birthday pictures, right? So I can select those pictures, and I select that one, and then I'm going to come down to this one, and I'm going to hit, is it Shift or Control? Let's see. Yeah, it was Shift. Okay, so I want to start with Shift. I'm going to start with this one, and then I'm going to come down here and do Shift. Okay, so these are all highlighted now. They all have that little blue check. Up here, I can click plus. So pluses in Google Talk are always something about next or more, add. So here I get to click on album, and I'm going to make a new album. And we're going to call it Sergio's 100th birthday. And I'm going to say it's good. Now, it didn't take those photos out of the feed. So if I go back to my feed of all my photos, they're still there. So this just becomes an endless thing that I can move through quickly by clicking on the side here and going to different dates, right, to see photos from another time. But I can, so that's just like you can't control it. It's just going to be a date-driven feed of every photo you've taken and put into Google Photos. My setup is that my photo, every time I take a picture on my phone, it automatically goes into my Google Photos. I can look at it on my phone, but I can look at it on my computer. I can download these images. I can get them printed. I can get them made into a book, whatever I want to do. But if I want to pull certain kinds of images, then the way you organize things is in albums. Does that make sense? Okay. And then the nice thing is you can share a whole album, right? So that album I just made, Sergio's birthday, I can now, this is the symbol in Google for sharing, this little weird sideways V. So now if I want to, I can create a link and then I can send that to Sergio and his family, and then they will have access to all these photos. And sometimes it could be a album that other people add their photos to. Like we had our high school reunion, right? So you can have a folder and you share the link and everyone can add their photos into the same album. So that's Google Photos. So it's a little separate than your Drive. And I will say it often takes up a lot of your memory. So if you notice in Google Drive, down here, it will tell you how much memory you have. How much memory do you get for free with your Google account? If you're looking at your Drive right now, you can see what it says. I'm paying for extra memory. So you probably are seeing, I think it's 5 or 15. I think you get 15 gigs. So I think you get 15 gigs of data, and photos take a lot of that. So if you are someone who uses photo a lot, you might want to look at how that's working for you and see if you want to maybe you have to pay for additional memory or have more than one account. Those are some ways to handle that. So we looked at the little waffle up here. We also can find our tools under new, right? I want to make a new one of these things like Google Doc or slides or vids. Vids, I haven't even, that's new for me. Google Forms. If I click on more, this is where I get to Google Sites. Jamboard's disappeared. Like all these things are going away now. Um, and when you create any of these things, they're just going to be put into your Drive. So one way that's an efficiency shortcut is to have the folder open that you want to make the thing in, right? So we're right now in, let me get to so these are my folders inside my folders inside my folders. So this is my folder for today. Um, so if I want to make a new document that I already know belongs to this idea, I want to get into this folder first. And now if I click on new and I make a new sheet, it's automatically going to be in this folder. That's just a little efficiency. Otherwise, I can put it in here afterwards. But it's just helpful. It's kind of like in real world where you have a folder in front of you and you make your new document and put it right in there. That's a little faster than making the document and then going to the filing cabinet and finding the folder and putting it in it, right? So if you do know that already, that's another efficiency moment, is to have that create the new document after you've opened the space that you want to have it in. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving. So we will be having these meetings every month. Our usual habit is the fourth Wednesday of the month. The issue in both November and December is that the fourth Wednesday hits very close to holidays, so we're going to move it up a week. So it's on November 20th, December 18th. At the very end, I have all of the Google Clubs for the whole year, and I will send that out to you all. So you'll have that and you can register as you wish. We do hope that you register and come. If you can't come, you don't need to register. We'll just add all of our content to our blog and you can look at it there. We had some people in the past, I think, who've registered knowing that that way they'll get the materials. But it's better for us if we know exactly who's coming. So only register if you plan to come, but know that you can access any of the stuff we cover because it'll be recorded and put up on our blog. So this is really just to give you a taste of that. Again, you'll get an email in the next couple of days, which will give you all the links to all the registrations. And we'll talk a little bit about these topics after we get to our next piece here. So Google Educator Level Certificate, Level 1 certificate. So there are a couple of different certificates that Google had. They used to have so for those of you who've been using Google for a while, we used to have something called G Suite, which was something that kind of pulled everything together and gave you more memory, and like a company could pay for G Suite, kind of like you pay for Microsoft, and everyone would have it, and you'd be kind of in this special safe little subgroup. G Suite went away. We now have something called Google Workspace. But in both cases, they had G Suite for education and G Suite for nonprofits. They have Google Workspace for education, Google Workspace for nonprofits, and then there's a regular workspace that costs money. So my organization, for example, now has Google Workspace for nonprofits, which we got for free. And it means that we as a group can have a shared set of drives, and it gave us a lot more memory and a way of working together that was sort of safer than just sharing files willy-nilly. There is a Google Workspace for education. I'm guessing that most of you don't have access to that. I think it really is kind of aimed at K-12. When it was G Suite, there was a certificate, a general G Suite certificate you could get that, if it was something you wanted to do in your life, maybe you're looking for another job and you wanted to demonstrate your Google skills, having that listed could be a very good thing. That's gone away. They have another set of certificates instead. These Google Educator certificates, I've not gotten one up to now because they are kind of aimed at the K-12 system and they are kind of aimed at having that workspace for education. But I've decided that it's worth getting. And I'm willing to try it out, right? And just know that some of the stuff they talk about, I'm like, I'm never going to do that, but okay, I can tell you how you would do it. So Google Educator Level 1 certificate, then there's Google Level 2. And the level 1 is $10, and the test, I think, is 180 minutes, and you do it virtually. The Google 2 is $25, and it's still 180 minutes test. Then they have these other three like higher level ones. So you'd want a lot of experience with Google to even begin to think about these, but that's something you could work towards. And these are things I've seen. I mean, people put them in their signature and their email and stuff. Like it's kind of, you're showing that you have this very heavy set of skills around Google. The way that they went, instead of having that just general G Suite certificate that they used to have, which really just took you through all the skills that for all the tools that we were just talking about. Now they have these very specified certificates that are really career oriented. So you might, for you or for your learners, this might be something that people would be interested in taking. These are online courses that have a certificate associated with them. And COABE, which is one of our national adult education organizations, has a relationship with Google, and people can apply for scholarships and get access to these training courses. So I have a couple of colleagues who've been doing them, but they tend to be people who are more the person I'm thinking of specifically is our data person, and he's done a lot of the data analytics, user design. But you might have learners, or you yourself might have multiple hats that you wear, and you might be interested in taking some of these certificate courses. But again, they're not education oriented; these are very much career oriented. Um, so we're concentrating on level one, and they've created a online training, so you can do that along with what we do here or instead of what we're doing here. But they do have an online course that you can take that's free that would get you all the skills they're going to test you for the certificate level one. They but I basically what I've done is I've taken their outline of what they're going to cover and I've spread it out over the next 6, 7 Google clubs. So these are their words, right? They have, for our next Google Club, we're going to consolidate, manage, collaborate using Google Drive. So today we talked a lot about Google Drive. This will be kind of a review of that. The December is communicate with Gmail, chat, sites, and Meet. So these are all the tools Google has made for us to communicate with each other. And you may be very familiar with Gmail, but never have used chat or vice versa. So we're going to cover all of those. January, we're going to look at using calendar, tasks, and keep. So again, these feels like some things we might want to do in our own lives, maybe not all of them, but again, skills that are useful for us. February, we're going to look at managing learner work and giving digital feedback. And this has a bit of the Google Classroom, and again, some more work around Google Drive and sharing. In March, we will look at measuring learner progress with Google Forms, Sheets, and Slides. So creating assessments and things like that. And then the April one will be a review. And those of you who want to, or maybe you'll dive into it before then even, is to take the actual exam. So that's our plan. We can add things into any of these areas. So I hope that you feel free to email me if there's a particular topic or an area that you're particularly interested in that isn't listed here. We have 2 additional sessions, May and June session, and those are very open. So if you decide, again, we usually do a show and tell where we have it explicitly just be coming from you guys about what you've been doing, but we have a lot of freedom there. So there's places where you'll have the opportunity to suggest additional topics or different focus. One of the things that came up last year were, well, 2 things that came up last year. One was that because we're doing this virtually, often you may not feel like you're going to work along beside me, right? If we were doing this in person, I might be up at the front of the room demonstrating, like I just was, how I make a shortcut. And you would be on your own laptop and you may feel more free or able to go ahead and try out the thing that you're seeing me do. Where when you're on Zoom, you don't really want to switch between screens or, it becomes a little more passive maybe. We're keeping it virtual, but I do have some ideas of having either an add-on session that is like for the very beginning part of this so that the Google Club itself might be the more complex discussion of applying some skill or some tool. And then for those of you who want to just try out, like, how do you even begin? Where is it? How do I start? Maybe we can have some additional sessions and even try to do some in-person stuff with that. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know that because we can work on making that possible. I saw your hand, Sean. Fantastic. And I'm always available. I mean, I really am. If you if you begin to think about something and you're like, I don't have any idea where this is, but I would like to be able to do this thing, I'm really happy to meet with you on Zoom or in person. So always feel free to reach out. The Google world, I'm very excited to have anyone join and go deep with me. So that's fantastic. So, as with all Google things, there's kind of a confusing multi way that you can kind of come in from so many different angles. I early days with Google, I'm like, just tell me like, how do I find out everything that is Google? I don't even know. Like in normal things, you log in and it shows you all the Google thing, like it would show you all the things it could do. And with Google, it's not quite like that. So it can be like photo was a great example, is not in my Drive. Drive tends to be where I think most people learn all the Google things because you have it under new and you have it under the waffle. But photo isn't really here, right? So photo is a great example of one that you have to kind of know about separately. And they do talk to each other. Like when I'm in my slides and I want to add an image, I can go to my photos and I can just grab a photo from my photos and insert it. So they talk to each other, but I wouldn't have even known photo existed, right? Unless someone else told me because it's not listed here. So this is one of the complications of Google is that it's kind of all over the place. And I have to say the same for their trainings and for the certificates. So they have at least two different bodies. They have Grow with Google, which is where all those professional certificates sit. And then they have Skillshop, which is where all of these trainings specifically for the certification, for the educator certifications, um, sit. So you kind of want to check out both. Now, Grow with Google only has one course for educators right now, and it is a generative AI for educators. So if you're interested in AI, it's sitting there at Grow with Google. Skillshop has a lot more going on. So the fundamentals training is the training they would recommend that you take to prepare for educator certificate level one. But there's a lot of other ones out there. So if we go there and look at it, yeah, all of these.
Are these
Yes,
free?
these are free.
Mm.
So I'll put this in the chat. But yes, all of this is free. Now, one of the um, these are all free. I feel like our struggles as human beings is that it's very hard to make ourselves do these things. So if it's last year, that idea we had with the Google, with the badges and things was to try to help people make time in their lives to do this little extra piece of work and then they would get a badge. And it really is hard. I don't know if you all remember, I feel like they've drifted away now. They do still exist, I think, but MOOCs, right? These huge online courses that you could take for free from Harvard or wherever, but the completion rates were miserable. And so this idea that just because things are online and available 24/7, it's almost harder for us to kind of commit to doing it. So if you want to find a buddy or bring it up at one of these meetings and see if somebody else wants to do it so that you can kind of help keep yourselves honest and do the work. I think that could be a way to do this. I don't think these courses are very long. In fact, it tells you here, right? So they're 2 hours long. So it depends on the course. So you'll check that out. If anybody does any of that, we'd love to hear back. Um, so that was the educators Google under Skillshop. Another set of training. So as I mentioned, it's confusing because they're in different places, right? So we saw Skillshop, we saw Grow with Google, and then there's the Applied Digital Skills. Applied Digital Skills is um, a set of curricula that Google created. You need to log in. So those other ones, I don't even know if you have to log in, but in here you'd have to sign in. But without signing in, you can still check it out. and get a sense of what's going on. But when you sign in or log in for the first time, you want to log in as a teacher because you have access as a teacher to both the student and the teacher view. If you create a student account, you only have a student view. Um, so if we go up to browse curriculum, so I'm not signed in, but you can just browse curriculum, and they tend to have some collections at the top. Often they're related to if there's a special, like, around Thanksgiving, there'll be something about Thanksgiving up here or whatever. So they're a little bit topical. And they've just put together some of the curricula that they created into these collections, but you can just go look at all their lessons. So they have, I think, 260 or something. What does it say over here? 216, which is a crazy amount, right? So I don't usually go by audience because I don't actually find that these are really true. Like I've seen some really interesting projects come from late elementary that I think could work for adults. Just, you're just using different content. So I don't tend to use this filter. What I do think is helpful, I mean, knowing how long you want the course to be or the training to be, the curriculum to be, this might be helpful. But what's usually particularly helpful is coming down here and saying, they used to have more topics that were to do. Okay, so writing strategies, right? And tools. The tools is probably the most useful filter. So I want to do writing strategies and I want to use, let's go to docs. So that cut us down to 26 out of 216. So that's a little bit more manageable, right? And so now I could look at these different uh, short courses. So and these, the idea is that this could be used by learners. I've not found many teachers who've taken these and turned around and just used them directly with a learner, but I've seen a lot of teachers take these and then take the parts that are useful and teach those to their learners. The way the courses are set up, it's mostly these 2-minute little videos, and then you go do the work. And then it's another 2-minute video, and then you do that next step of work. Are there any questions?
No, I thought it was funny. It said, I'll write a short story with emojis.
Exactly. I mean, they really do try to to be very playful. Is that one on here somewhere?
Write a story using emojis.
Over here, yes. So let's look at that one. So another thing we see here is we can see all the different tools that are included, right? So this is just about using emojis is only using docs. So we do a quick view of it. Let's look at the lesson overview. So there'll be a little introduction, format your story, replace words with emojis, share your story with a partner, and then there's a little quiz at the end, right? So you did have to write the whole story without the emojis first. So this could be enticing for people who are a little bit like bored by writing all the time, that they come and actually learning how to put emojis into a doc is kind of an interesting skill. But yes. So you decide, right? Now, as a teacher, you get it would include a learning plan, a lesson plan, and all this other kind of stuff. So when you log in, you would get all that. But so here's an example of what it ends up looking like. So in the slides, you'll see they're all listed here, right? We said that we had Skillshop, we had Grow with Google, and then this Applied Digital Skills, which is much more of a kind of education curriculum type of situation for our learners. But I've learned a lot. Like I won't necessarily take the whole course, but I'll go in and I'll find the couple of videos that show me how to do the thing that they're describing, and then I practice it. So I found it actually very valuable for my own learning. All right, what else do we have here? Okay, so we have a quick quiz. We're going to do this quickly. I've covered quite a few of these things today, so we'll see if it comes up. So we have both a link here, which I'm going to share in the chat. But what is that black and white thing called over here?
QR code?
A QR code. So what do you do with a QR code?
You click it or hover over it with the picture, the camera.
Yeah.
Turn on the camera and
exactly. So
click on the link.
So my rule with QR codes is I want to make sure that whatever I'm sending people to looks good on a phone, because most people are going to get to a QR code, using their phone, right? So if I do it right now and I hold it up, it's going to create a little thing and then the quiz will come up, right? So the quiz is here. Google Quizzes, very mobile friendly. This is very nice to see here. If I was to click on the link, also pretty nice, right? Very similar. Sometimes I think learners get, it's hard to go between things, so it's easier for them, but they might be doing all their learning on their phones, so who knows? But go ahead and take this quiz. I'm going to stop talking. I'm only going to give you a short time because we're almost out of time, and I want to review a little bit at the end. But at the very end, just notice that you can actually see your results. So when you click submit, there'll be a little thing that pops up that says you can see your score. So go for it. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment.
Wait, can you put the QR code back up or
Absolutely.
the form?
Yeah. There you go. So I'm going to give you 3 more minutes. I'm going to turn off my audio, or sorry, turn off my mic. But in 3 minutes, I'll come back and we'll look at what happened.
But it doesn't smell well. Bye, Josh. That's what I meant to say.
All right, so I see a couple of folks have completed it. I'm going to take us through it very quickly. I know we're going to run out of time, so if you've run away, that's fine. I'll finish off my review of it and it'll be recorded at least. So thank you for being here today. Let me give you the evaluation link, and then I will start to review the answers. So this is the evaluation. Okay, so do the evaluation. If you have to run away, run away. I'll start going through the questions. So we did do this in Google Forms. And the deal with Google Forms, we also made the Google form into a quiz, which meant a self-scoring quiz, which meant that you could see the answers, but they were tricky questions, I will say that. So, um, as I'm the person who made the form, I can see the back. We call this the back end, right? The back end gives me, this is where I could edit the questions. This is where I can see the responses, and then there's settings. In the response section, I can also link this to a sheet so I can see it as a spreadsheet, which can sometimes be a little easier. But just for the sake of answering the questions, we'll go through it this way. It's nice. It gives me a little bit of an overview of where people struggled. Um, but let's go through the questions very quickly. Okay, so can you tell by looking at this link if it is giving people access to editing or commenting or view only? And we talked a little bit about that. By looking at this link, you cannot tell. The word edit is in there somewhere. There's edit, and sharing is there, but it's there regardless of what access you're giving people. So the link itself is not, you can't apply any of your reading logic to what you see in the link. Imagine that these are just commands to the computer, but nothing logical for us. So the answer to that one is no, you cannot. Which of the following ways are to open a new Google document? So we have in Chrome, click on the waffle and then click on the Google Docs icon. We kind of looked at that a little bit. Yes, that is a way to get to Google Docs. When we were over here and we had the waffle, right? If we found our docs, this would be a way to open up our new docs. From Google Drive, click on the new button and then click on the Google Docs option. So again, in Google Drive, we have the new button. We click on there, and again, we can get to Google Docs. In Chrome, type docs.new in the Omnibox and hit enter. So Omnibox might be a term you're not familiar with. This is the Omnibox up here. So if I open a new tab, this is not an Omnibox. You can now type URLs in there, but in the past, you couldn't type a URL in there. It would not like it. You could type the word Apple, but you couldn't type apple.com. So up here in the Omni box, Omni meaning everything, that's where I can type it in. And if I do docs.new, I think is what we said, that will open a new doc. So that's another shortcut to making a new doc. The downside of this is I couldn't tell it where to be. So I'm going to have to make sure at the end I remember to put it in the folder it needs to go into. And then in Chrome, type docs.google.com in the Omnibox and hit enter. And that's one we did do with Drive and with Photos, right? So photos.google.com. So the trick here is that all of these are true. You got right answers if you picked any of them, but actually all of them are true. If a colleague shares a Google Slides deck with you so you can work on it collaboratively, what would be the most efficient way you could organize it so you could find the slides again 1 month later and continue the collaboration? And the reason I mentioned collaboration is this idea that we can't do copies, right? Because a copy would mean that I would have one version, you would have one version. So copies don't work. It would be in my recent or my shared with me folders, but it's going to get really out of date in a month, right? It's going to go underneath. It's just going to keep going down. So that is one way I've seen people try to do this. If you're looking in your drive, we talked about starred, but you also have recent. And recent's great if someone shared something with you yesterday, but it's going to go down. Like people share stuff with me all the time. So in a month, that will be really far down there. And I'd have to remember the date and it would be very hard. So it's not efficient. Um, Make a shortcut to the file and put it in a folder with your colleague's name on it or named after the project. I actually think that's a really good one. And then save the email from your colleague that has the link so you can come back to it whenever you want to. And again, that's not wrong, but we want to talk about efficiency, right? So the best answer would be the making the shortcut. You can organize your Google Drive by changing the color of files. And this was a trick question because files, you cannot change the color. Folders, you can. So again, if I'm looking in my drive, these are files. And the files will always have the little icon beside them of the tool used to make them. And I can't change that. So if I look at my drive, the things I could change colors were the folders. So it's a little tricky. So the reason this is false is because it's folders, not files that you can change colors of. When viewing your Google Drive, which do you use more often? The grid view, the list view? I don't know. So we didn't talk about that today. I have over here, we have the option. This is the list view, which is what this looks like. The other option is the grid view, which is all of your folders at the top. And then as you scroll down, you'll get to your files. And the nice thing about files here is that you get to see a little picture. So some people really like the grid view because they can quickly scan and be like, oh, that's the document I want to get to. That's great if you don't have a lot of folders. If you have a lot of folders, to me, this would not be very efficient. So I'm not going to say right or wrong, but that's how you would change it. And it's good to make sure that everyone knows how to do that because if you're teaching learners and they see this view on the projected screen, and when they look at it, they see it like this, that's the beginning of people feeling like, what? I don't know where anything is. So you just want to make sure everyone feels super comfortable switching between these and understanding what the different looks like, and then they can decide what they want to do. And you can decide what you want to do. But the to me, the benefit is definitely decreased if you have a lot of content in there. So again, the answer there was either, right? You could, whichever one you like. If you have a Google account, you already have a YouTube account with the same credentials, even if you've never set one up. And that one is true, right? I mentioned that YouTube is owned by Google. And even if you've never, you've watched lots of YouTube videos and you've never logged in, it's just waiting for you. You can log in anytime you want to using whatever you use to log into your Gmail or your Google Drive. In Google Slides, the tabs and ribbon stay the same no matter what you're editing. We didn't review this. So the ribbon is this, which are little shortcuts to different functions. And in slides, notice what happens, right? The QR code is considered an image. So if I click on the QR code, this blue box tells me what I'm editing. So I'm editing an image right now. And this is what the ribbon looks like. If I go over here where I'm editing a text box, it's a different ribbon. So in this one, the answer is that in Google Slides, the tabs and ribbons stay the same no matter what you're editing. That is false. So and this is important because people get very confused. You saw this, you maybe become clear in your mind of what's available on a certain ribbon. And then when you get back there, you can't find that ribbon. Just remember, you need to select the item that you want to edit, and then you'll see the ribbon that's associated with it. And it will be different depending on the kind of item that you're looking at. In Docs, the tabs and ribbons stay the same no matter what you're editing. So if we're looking at a Google document and I inserted an image from my photos, let's add, we'll celebrate Sergio. Okay, so I can have an image in here somewhere. Where did it go? I don't know where it went. Ah, it's at the top there. Okay, so if I click on the picture, the ribbon changes as well. right? Mostly in Word docs, we're not going to see that. We're mostly going to be used to working only with text, but it is true that the ribbon changes if you have an image in there. And then one of the tips that I didn't talk about earlier is Control Z for undo. So if you did something and then you don't like it anymore, just do Control Z. I might have, I'll have to look at that one. I might have had that one wrong. So if you got the wrong answer or the right answer and I marked it wrong, that's my mistake. But yes, so the tabs do change, the ribbons do change. In Google Sheets, the tabs and ribbons stay the same no matter what you're editing. So let's go to, well, we'll have one. So that was something I didn't show you either. If you're looking at a document and you're like, oh, what folder is this in? This little icon will tell you what folder this is in. And that can sometimes help you find a folder that you're like, I don't remember the name of the folder, but I found the thing, but I don't know where it is. Click on that. And then this is whatever the folder is that it was in. So now you can click on this and it will open up the folder. This is what the folder looks like. So we have here, I will do a new, let's do it from here. We can make our responses. So the responses are here. If I click on this or I click here, the ribbon stays the same, right? That's all I was trying to show you. So this is the sheets like Excel, and no matter what you do, I think the ribbon stays the same. Where did my answers go? Let's look at the questions again. Okay. The favicon. We didn't talk about the favicon, so you might have had to guess, or maybe you knew. The favicon is a very small icon visible on the different tabs on an internet browser. So when I look up at the top of my screen, these are all tabs. There's a little tiny icon on each of the tabs, and that is a favicon. And that is something to pay attention to because, again, a big part of feeling comfortable using Google and technology in general is feeling like you know where you are and where you want to go. And if I asked you right now to go to the Google Sheets document, that gives you the answers to these, or it shows me how people did on the quiz, you were like, oh, I can't read all that writing. I'm going to have to scroll over each one of these. But there's a cheating thing because there's only one tab open right now that has the Sheets favicon right there. So I don't need to worry because there's only one. If you have two things open, you might need to scroll between them. But the idea here is to be aware that these little pictures mean something, right? A website will often have its logo there, or certainly if it's a Google product, it will have the icon from the Google tool. So the favicons are important to notice. In Google Sites, you can create a public website for free, but it limits you to 5 web pages. You can create a Google site for free, and there's no limit. So this was false. Again, trick question. Sorry about that. Unlike other Google tools, Google Sites, you can edit the content even after you share the link with the learners. That's false because it's true with almost everything that's Google. I can share a link with you to our slides today, and I can still go back and edit my slides. And you'll see the new version of slides whenever you open it up. So Google Sites certainly lets me do that, right? I can make my website and put the URL up there, and then tomorrow I can go in and change what the homework assignment is. And the website will just, whoever goes to that URL we'll get to that new content. But that is actually one of the things about Google in general. You really, these tools are almost like websites themselves. So every tool, I won't say every, almost every tool in Google, you can share with other people a link to get to it, and then you can go in after the fact and change the content.
So that's true?
That is, unlike other Google, this is false because
Oh,
because unlike other Google tools, in this case, it's like Google tools, like all of the Google tools, Google Sites can be edited. So the trick here was unlike, if you understand what I mean. So here I made it seem like Google Sites were special and everybody else was different. And in reality, everything that's Google has this aspect to it that you can go in and change the content after the fact. Google Sites use responsive design. So even if you design your site for a computer screen, it will automatically change layout for people viewing the site on a phone screen. We didn't talk about Google Sites at all today, so I know you might all have just been guessing on this, but that is absolutely true. Yes. And that was something we saw with our Google form, right? The Google form looked a little different when you looked at it on computer screen because it has a little bit more horizontal space. But looking at it on a phone screen, it actually changes and it looks nice, right? Things will get stacked on top of each other instead of being beside each other. And we call that responsive design. And it really is something, the QR code piece, as I mentioned, if you're using QR codes to help your learners get somewhere, you want to make sure that wherever they're getting to is pleasant and useful to see on a small screen. So this concept of responsive design is something we really value in Google Sites, and we're very frustrated by people who don't use responsive design these days because it's very easy to do that. And you've all, I'm sure, have come across that where you go to a website on your phone and it looks just like the website does on a computer screen and it's really hard to read and you have to make it bigger and whatever. So that's not responsive. Responsive automatically, without any programming even on my part, it will just be designed that way. It knows how to rearrange things. All right, those were all the questions. That was a lot. So yes, absolutely. People can leave as they need to. I'm sorry. I see that Kirsty was asking about that. So thank you so much for staying a little long. What will happen now is I'm going to take our slides from today, this recording, and I'm going to put them on our blog. I'm going to send you all an email that will have a link to our materials and the blog, and also the future sessions. So you can put those in your calendar or at least pick out the ones you might be interested in. You can register now if you want to. But again, we ask folks to register because you kind of plan on coming, because you'll have access to the materials even if you don't come. So the registration helps us just know who we expect to have here. And then please do the evaluation. And thank you so much for being here. And my contact information is at the end of that slot of the slides, but you'll get that email from me tomorrow and you'll have you should have gotten my email today when you got your Zoom link, but you can contact me anytime. So if you have questions or a particular thing you'd like to work on here, let me know that. Thank you again, and thanks for sticking around. If you need a certificate for attendance, email me. I don't do them automatically, but anyone who needs one, just send me an email so that I can remember to do it, because otherwise I'll forget. So you definitely can get an attendance credential or certificate. Just send me an email. And my email address, I'll put it right here. Sorry. So again, you'll have it. Any questions? We're all good. Thank you for sticking through, and I'll see you maybe next month. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Nell. Thank you.
Take care. Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you.